let's introduce our first guest. It's Christian Parton. He's the CEO of Genera Films, a fund short film. So, round of applause for Christian Parton. And an actor and a theatre director originally from Turkey. It's Memet Ali Alabora. Well done.
So basically, obviously, I came from short films. I've done a good number of short films, and I think, you know, obviously, as we all know, they're a great sort of calling card. They're a great way into the industry to show what you can do with a kind of, you know, limited budget, limited resources. So I think short films are fantastic and very much, they're important, but they're kind of overlooked, I felt, and especially the funding side. I always had a problem with the funding, and myself, I've done Kickstarter, I've done, you know, applied to BFI, I've done all these sort of, you know, lots of film bodies, and it just never sort of sat right with me. You know, I've done a Kickstarter successfully, and I ended up, you know, about £1,000 came off it to go to them, and to, you know, I've given people rewards and all this sort of stuff. And I just thought, you know what, we do all this, and then we kind of apply to lots of film festivals, hoping our films get seen. And we sort of do this, and I've done it, and you spend a lot of money kind of pumping out, and hopefully you get an email saying, you know, you're selected. And I just thought, well, we have that system in place. What if we put that system at the beginning, and actually you apply with your idea, and instead of getting an official selection or, you know, an award, you actually receive cash. So it's cash to go and fund the film, so it's the beginning of the process. So that's kind of where Genera started, and it's taken a little bit of time just to get everything in place, because essentially what I'm doing is giving money away for free. So what Genera does is give cash without we don't take creative control, we don't ask for EP credits, we don't kind of get involved, because in my eyes it's about the filmmaker. We have to trust the filmmaker. If we don't, I think there's something wrong. So, and I don't like these sort of film bodies where someone that might even not know much about film tells you to cut that scene, or you're going back and forward with someone and you think, all for a couple of grand, you know, leave that sort of the struggle of that to the feature films. That, you know, that's when you go back and forth and take years negotiating stuff. Let's just get a couple of grand in and go and make a film. So that's why I sort of reached out to lots of partners, including this festival, and sort of said, let's get them on board so that when people apply to Genera, they can also take advantage of sort of discounts and offers with lots of industry professionals. So basically what we have now is, I think it's about 56, if I'm right, partners on the website. So once you apply to Genera, we fund every 4 months, so quarterly. You've got access to all these sort of discounts and offers. So you've got something for your kind of cash straight away, rather than just sort of blindly applying. I think I've rattled on enough there, haven't I? I mean, there you go.
So let's come to Memet here. So you're originally from Turkey. You were co-founder of the Actors Union in Turkey. Is that right?
Yes, I am the founding president of Actors Union of Turkey. Which we founded in 2011.
Oh wow!
Yes.
And now you live in Cardiff.
Yes, I do. It's an incredible country, and I am really, really very happy to be living and working and creating in Wales and in Cardiff. I now consider myself like maybe 40% Welsh, and my Welshness is increasing every day. I still don't have the accent though, but I'm trying. Oh. But I'm trying to learn the language.
Oh really?
Yes.
Oh excellent.
I was in a TV show actually, which I played in Welsh and in English.
Ah, can you give us some Welsh now?
Doing trio dysgu Cymraeg.
Any Welsh speakers?
Which means I'm trying to learn Welsh.
Oh, okay. We believe you. And are there any Welsh speakers in? Okay. Well, there is one. We have one here on the stage.
Trying.
So, what have you been working on recently?
I mostly work for theatre. I'm a theatre director and an actor, but I've worked all my life in theatre and cinema and TV. Here I've done a couple of works. I was in a new Welsh English TV show, which is going to be in 2 languages. Have you seen Hinterland? I don't know. It's going to be like Hinterland, Keeping Faith. That I was in a movie which is going to be in Rain Dance on the 25th and 28th. Trendy, it's called. And we have done a show, a production, which was a feminist theatre gig, which toured across 21 different venues in a space of a month throughout Wales. And we now want to bring that play to England as well. And now we're also working on a new show which is going to be in Welsh and in Turkish, which is going to be about identity and belonging.
How have you found the difference in casting now you've come over to the United Kingdom?
So I'm a terrorist to start with. So the first thing I have realized in this country that I wasn't white. I always considered myself as what I thought I was white. You know, if you asked me my appearance, I would say white. But I realized that I wasn't pale enough in this country to be considered as a. So one day, a police stopped me, and then they filed a report. And I read the report afterwards, which said a dark European.
And that's when you found out?
And that's when I found out. But it was also the casting as well, because I haven't gone to any auditions yet, which is a European role.
Right.
It is either a Middle Eastern smuggler, you know, or a terrorist or whatever. The best I can get was an Israeli. I haven't even auditioned for an Italian. I may, you know, I could be Italian or Spanish, but no, I don't audition for those things. Greek is the best. Yeah, Greek is the closest I could get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's this notion of casting, like there are these boxes in casting in this country, as far as I have experienced over the last 4 years, which you are, but maybe if you become a celebrity, maybe things can change. But since you became a celebrity, you're into these boxes, and those boxes that you tick on Spotlight. You tick those boxes anyway, but also your look tells a lot about who you are.
Yeah.
So you are bound to be there and audition for that. That was kind of one of my harsh experiences, but I get used to it now.
Yeah, but coming to this country, you're nodding there, Christian. Maybe we should give Mehmet this microphone as well. There we go.
Oh,
so you can both. You can hear me shouting here if I have any extra bits to throw in.
I was nodding. Yeah, I agree.
Why did you know?
Well, I think we were just having the conversation, weren't we? That you know, I think there's sort of the two sides of the industry, isn't there? There's the sort of the creative side, and then there's the sort of business side. And unfortunately, sometimes they don't always blend. And you know, especially with actors becoming more and more, well, they're a product, you know, aren't they? And I think they're sort of they're used to sell films, aren't they? And they're used to sell sort of, and that's just I suppose touching on what you're kind of saying.
It is. That's a very the film industry is a very interesting place, because none of us, not none of us, but 90% of us don't start this thing because we want to become famous or because we want to earn a lot of money. We start this because we have dreams. We want to tell stories. We want to be part of a creative process. And sometimes we do, but most of the time we don't. Most of the time we are products. We go there, show our hands. In commercial auditions, you show your hands and then your profiles. 2 profiles and your hands. It's almost like sort of a horse situation, like show your teeth even sometimes. So it's like, but the same person would be playing Shakespeare the other week. The very same person, and not just like in a French theatre, maybe in RSC or in National Theatre. The very same person. Or the very same person could be on a movie which will win awards in Cannes. Yeah. So that's a very weird kind of. There's one pool of actors, which everybody's picked from that pool, and that's sort of weird.
Yeah, I'll just touching on that. I've always said to actors that you just don't ever think why in an audition. If you get a no, if you don't get it, don't ever think why, because you won't. You'll never figure it out. And you could sit for weeks, couldn't you, and go, is it because I did? Maybe I should have. And you will not know.
And I always say to actors that it is like buying a lottery ticket, becoming an actor. You can make it, and it is not always about the talent or your looks or nothing. It's sometimes really just down to luck.
So this point about casting, you guys seem pretty passionate about, but I was wondering, is there anything that, if the tables are turned, or when the tables are turned, what is your approach to, is this like a problem that, is there anything that you're actively doing or want to do to change or contribute to this?
It's a good question. It's a hard question. I don't really think I can answer it, but what I can say is, as an actor, you just have to be you. And that sounds so cliche and kind of what everyone says, but I think you have to be you, and you have to sort of show you, and one day you will be right for whatever it is. You see what I mean? And then you become kind of commercialized, and then you're just the guy, you know, the leading guy. But I think if you try and if you don't know who you are, it really comes across. If you're trying to be something that you're not, I think the best kind of most refreshing people that walk in a room and are just them. Would you agree with that? I think you have to try and keep yourself.
But the other side of the question was, I think, what are you doing in your power to kind of change this in the sector, in the industry? For me, it's like when it is the theatre auditions, because I'm a theatre director and sometimes I produce plays as well, so I also audition people. What I tend to do is, for me, it's very hard to understand a person from just one piece. So I would like to have workshops with these people, to know them better. Of course, I know that it's almost impossible to do this in films, because it's such a fast thing, and then you have to do all these stuff. But for a theatre, I would prefer to have workshops rather than auditions, to spend time with these people, to have an experience with these people, to spend time with these people, because it's not always, but it is about how I see acting and how I see theatre as well. But in cinema it's different. But for me, I would like to spend more time with these people. That's what I tend to do.
Yeah, actually, I think most people would agree with that. I think a lot of, especially directors, would always want and always push for more time. Yeah. And I think that's when the struggle of, time and money comes into play, because do you have that time to have 4 weeks, rehearsal?
Yeah, but like not 4 weeks, but in this goddamn business, the only time, the only people who don't have who are not allowed time are actors. You wait for that gaffer for an hour to fix the light on those balloons. You wait for the art department for that bloody flower over there, but when it comes to you, you never have time. You have to do everything like, all right, let's go, let's do it. Or just let me relax, let me get into this. You were waiting for that flower for an hour, you remember, you were waiting for the art department, but you never have time. So when it comes down to us, it's always us. And it's always also the casting, I think, that lacks the time that we need. So maybe we need more time.
There you go. We need more time.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
Other than your casting, is there any other differences between Turkey and England in the industry?
Oh. The reason why we have founded the Actors Union of Turkey was because of the working conditions. Now, I'm going to tell you something, and this is a fact. This is not a joke. This is not like you wouldn't believe your ears. But in Turkey, they produce 100 TV shows every year, of which half of them stop before the end of the season. So half of them does like 8 to 10 episodes, but then 50 of them stays. 50. They are every week, so 39 episodes a year, and each episode is 2 hours. 120 minutes. Some of them are even more. So people, on average, work for 16 to 18 hours a day, with 2 teams working on the same script. There are 2 directors, 2 teams working on the same script. So there's a difference. Okay. Of course, here things are better planned, And the fact, and there isn't a very big TV sector in England, but of course there is an incredible TV sector because most of the American TV shows are also casted here. So there's this, but as in terms of working conditions, in terms of the set, it's the same. It's exactly the same. The people, even the people are the same. I can tell from 1 mile who works for the arts department, who is the sound engineer. It's like the people are the same, but the working conditions in Turkey are incredible, are unbearable, and it's still like that. So that's a massive, that's the main difference between two countries.
A lot of high-profile directors are moving into TV recently because of the improving of TV shows. I was wondering if you would say it's a good idea to go to a 2-hour episode.
To 2-hour episodes, it's a rubbish idea, because in a 2-hour episode, because 2 hours means a standalone work in itself, and in Turkish TV shows now, half an hour they look at each other. They just look at each other. There's music and they look at each other. Because you can't write a 2-hour episode. It's a movie, for God's sake. So you have to take this time by having them going to a pub and drinking and then eating. And we're seeing these in montage under beautiful music. And sometimes they look. They just look. I've got loads of friends who got married because they looked at each other for so long, they fell in love. Yeah, that was the case for Halit and his wife, Bergüzar, in Turkey. Yes.
Hi, I'm just wondering what the process for applying to Genera Films is.
Yes. So basically, it's sort of very similar. Are you familiar with sort of Film Freeway and all these platforms, right? So, which are one of my partners. Basically, it's you log on, you log in, you register, you get your profile from which you can add projects. So you can add, I think, up to 5. You can add now up to 5 projects. A lot of people have, lots of short films on the go. And there's basically a very sort of simple, we kept it very brief and simple, application form that's sort of predetermined that you fill out. So we fund quarterly, so you've got 3 months of which to apply for that round. But you can edit your profile at any point within that round. So it's not reviewed till the end, if that makes sense, because a lot changes, and I think, when you spend sort of time applying for these things, suddenly the next week you go and get an actor that says they'll do it or something, and you think, I wish they could know about that, and of course you can't, it's been sent. So we've deliberately done that you can edit and update the project throughout up until the closing of the round. So it's a very sort of similar process. When the projects are shortlisted, we then ask for a lot more. We ask for so at the very first stage, we don't ask for a script. We actually just ask for treatment. We ask for synopsis. We ask for sort of estimated running time, how much money you're looking for, etc. Again, we were having this conversation. We deliberately don't ask for ethnicity or sexual orientation, which I always think is mad on these forms. What's that got to do with anything? Or age or where you are in the world. So deliberately, because for me, I always thought that's irrelevant. It's about what the film is, and should we make a good film? It's about the script and the film. So it's deliberately very, very simple. Because again, I'm not going to create something that already exists, pages of kind of application forms and stuff like that. I wanted to create something that was easy, didn't take loads of time, that you could do. Still go and do the other things. A lot of the people that apply to my fund still go because they might need more than the sort of $5 grand that we offer. But and that's great, And again, that's not a problem. You can go to anyone else. There's no. Bizarrely, there are no conditions to the funding, which took my lawyers a bit of a headache. But it's basically we sort of give the cash away without any kind of conditions at all attached with it, other than our logo, So to help us sort of spread. But does that make sense? We can have a chat.
And is it
More of a chat.
Slide ready?
Oh yeah. We've funded 5 short films last round, which are going out and doing very well, which is great. And some of them we're in all different stages. So that's the other thing. We actually fund sort of pre-production all the way to festival run. because that, as we all know, can be quite expensive if you want to apply to lots of festivals. So, and people sort of make their film and then go, oh God, we need a few hundred quid, 1,000 quid to sort of apply to all these festivals you want to apply to. So that's where we come in again. So the other question I get a lot is, how do you know they're going to make a film? You're just going to give them money and they run away, right? Okay. And now, the true answer is we go through lots of kind of belt and braces kind of procedures to, I mean, if someone's gone to the effort to write a script, to have made other films, to give me a budget breakdown, to have locations and storyboards, well, it's a hell of a lot of effort to really go to for maybe getting some money. So we put those provisions in place. The answer is, do I fund, do I take into account someone's net worth or earnings? No, because it can be said the other way. You get these funds where if you're 18 to 25 and you live in a certain part of the UK, then you can receive more funding than other people. And I'm very keen to stay away from that, because for me, it's not about, again, why I don't ask. I'm not asking how much you earn or where you're from and all that sort of stuff, because it's about the story, and whether you're a multi-millionaire or whether you've got nothing, if you're going to make a great short film, that's what's important. That should be what's important. It's important.
And believe me, when you have that money, you don't go into that trouble.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I don't think I get many millionaires asking me for £5,000. Yeah. To be honest, the theory was this. There's a lot of filmmakers, there's a few selected bodies that, if you've won a BAFTA last year, oh look, you've got funding. But my thing was, if we all together as filmmakers put money in a pot, a lot more people can make films than us sort of dancing to someone else's tune and sort of going through all these sort of 7 months worth of auditions and workshops and creative things. And it's like for them to then take control of your film at the end, or going to Kickstarter for you to pay a platform. I think I paid almost near enough £1,000 when I raised some money to someone else. And I think, well, actually, that doesn't serve the filmmaker. That's not beneficial for the filmmaker. As I said, it's a couple of grand to go make a short film. Let's get people making short films. Let's not spend 7 months doing rounds of auditions and processes. I mean, that's great, and I'm not knocking that. I'm simply providing an alternative, because I believe, and so far, the people we've had on the site believe, that this is a simpler, easier, better way to receive some funding or part funding for your project. So basically, we've got an independent panel of working industry filmmakers, and they basically base their decision on the project strength. It's all about the story, it's about the script, it's about the idea. Of course, people look into what people have done before, they want to see other work and what they've done, but again, I don't want to... It's tough I remember when I was making my first short film, and you think, am I going to apply to something where I've got nothing to show? Like I've got nothing, I've got the drive, but I've got nothing to kind of show that I can make a film. I've just got this great idea, and I'm trying to bring people on, I'm trying to have an idea, I'm trying to get something forward. So it's all about the story. If the story sounds interesting and the story has legs, then that is what we have to base it on. Otherwise, we're like everyone else that bases it purely on if someone's made a good film before, or if it ticks boxes to fund that film. If it's a certain film that we know can tick boxes because it's public funded money or whatever, and we can tick those boxes. It's not about the film, it's about who's in it and if we can make that look good for us. That's not what this is about. Again, this is about the strength of the project. And of course, it's subjective, It's exactly the same process as a film festival would do, I've spoken to people that have applied for, multiple film festivals, applied the year after, didn't get into anything, applied the year after, got into everything, and you think, how does that work? And it's, film is subjective, it's art, it's subjective, there's always going to be differences that people like, but I'm sort of rambling on here, but the point is, any genre, any film we take, and if it looks to be an interesting project, that may have legs and may help that filmmaker, that's what we base it on.
Listening to you talking about that, what was the situation in Turkey in terms of funding and getting support from the government? Or
Is that it? That's the answer. Yeah.
There is support from the government to films. It's not a lot of money. It's around £100,000, I think, for feature films. I think there's also something for short films as well. But Turkey's funding structure is very different from Europe, not just the UK, but from Europe. Turkey is Turkey relies on corporate sponsorship more than Europe. In that sense, it's more like America. It's sort of like a combination of States and Europe. But of course, we don't have like this amount of support, public support for arts in Turkey. So if you were a short filmmaker, I'm not sure about, I don't know. I know about the feature films. And every year, I think the Ministry of Culture just supports 10 feature films, and that's it. And they are not, it's not enough money to make the film with that money, with only that money, which is £100,000. But we also got Eurimage, and also maybe other funds from Europe, but not from the public funds. It's harder, but it's hard everywhere in the world. Also, there are relatively more funds in the UK for arts, but still, it's kind of the idea that Christian came with about having this independent body and funding films through this way is a very good alternative, because at the end of the day, it's all about ticking boxes also in these public bodies in this country, whether it is a live performance or a short film or a feature film. And you can understand those people as well, because they're spending your money. It's the public money. It's our money that they are spending. So they have these criteria which kind of develop over time, which you may not find okay, but these people are probably they feel responsible to us. But then it is, do we want those ticks?
That's the politics.
It is like...
Yeah. That's the politics of you have to, you're not necessarily funding the best film. You're funding the film that makes you look like you're doing the right thing. You're kind of ticking the boxes of, look what we've helped fund. And everyone goes, oh, that's a great thing to fund. Is that the best film or not?
But also that criteria is also kind of a very vague liberal agenda who even the government don't support. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very vague liberal idea of ticking the boxes. It doesn't even, but it is the only, but it is the only reference that they've got. I don't think that, probably there are people like us there, not different people, and who wants to do good. But because of the system, it's becoming problematic. So this is, I think, a good alternative, which would also bring its own problems as well. Because at the end of the day, as he said, it's subjective.
So that side you could never get round. Someone has to judge something. You can't get round that. But what I've tried to do is get round the politics of it. I don't have to say, hey, look what I funded to make the public feel great about it. We can just fund the films that we think deserve the money, regardless of any other. That's what I love about it, is that we don't have to dance that tune. We can do our own thing, and that's why we're encouraging filmmakers to move away from that and actually go, hang on, we have the strength, we have the power. Let's make our films. Let's not make the films we have to make, or we better edit that so we can get into this because that's what they will like. Do you know what I mean? And that's what happens. And then you get, you come to the edit and they say, oh, can you? And I've seen it. This scene's quite, can we remove that scene? It's like, well, but that means the whole rest of the film doesn't actually make any sense. That's crucial. But it's not it's quite violent, or, and it's like, okay, but then nothing's going to make sense, It's like, but we can't have that in there, and you're going back and forth and thinking, oh, and that's exactly why all these stories that come out, and I thought there has to be a better way, and I couldn't believe, myself, I was looking for something where I could, get funding from, and I thought, well, if it doesn't exist, I don't like to moan about things. Let's create it. Let's figure out what's right. Let's go and speak to people. What do they want? How could this work? And then here we are. So,
how do you decide how much you are going to give to
award to the filmmakers? Yeah, good question. So basically, in the sort of initial application, one of the criteria is how much funding you're looking for from us, how much funding you've already raised and what the total budget is. Again, you know, so we can keep an idea. If it's a ridiculously huge budget, you know, we can kind of play on what you're after. So actually we put it into the hands of the filmmakers, how much they're looking for. And that's what we base it by. So we'll have some people that are looking for, you know, £1,000, some people looking for £5,000. It really depends, and that's what was really interesting. Because I thought, well, everyone's just going to say £5,000, aren't they? Everyone's just going to go in because that's the sort of amount we fund to a project. So I just assumed that we'd get everyone. But actually, what's really good and interesting is people are saying, well, you know, we need £1,200 because that's how much our colour grade's going to be, or we need this, you know. So they, you know, and they break that down for you. So. Yeah, the answer is we get the filmmakers to tell us what they think they need or what they need. So.
Okay, allied to that question then,
yeah.
is that if you've already awarded somebody, for example, pre-production,
yeah.
and they decide at the end that actually they can do with some extra grading, would you go back even more, or would you, having already awarded somebody X amount, you kind of what wasn't it?
They could apply for another round, but then it's very similar. If you're in another round, you're up against. So you know, you have to remember it's about the strength of the projects that are within that round. So if they are deemed to be a strong project to finish off, then they can be awarded. What's great is none of the panel know what the films, the filmmakers, they get the script. So I can get a truly independent. They don't know if they know that person or if they've been funded. You see what I mean? So they get the script and they get the ideas without that, so that they have to make a decision purely based on what they're seeing and not necessarily on what they know to be true. If that person had, yeah. So that's not happened.
What if they don't produce the films? What if people get the grants and don't produce a film?
Well, that was a sort of question earlier. So there's, you know, in doing what I'm doing, part of the risk is that someone doesn't make a film.
Yeah.
You know, and there's, in order for what I'm doing to be done. Is I have to trust the filmmakers. Now that's why I have lots of, as I said, belt and braces procedures. That if you're going into that much effort to kind of put everything together and you don't go and make the film, it's not great on you. Do you know what I mean? Because I heavily publicise the films that are being awarded. So if you are serious about being, you know, in this industry, you take funding, you then don't go and make a film. It's a small industry, as you know. So I think.
Ask Terry Gilliam about that.
Yeah. Look, there is that risk. You know, I can't deny that is a factor, and trust me, I've been through it. You know, legally of how that works. But if I don't do that, I'm basically becoming another thing where I go, well, you have to finish it, and then we'll give you the money afterwards to make sure we'll keep control of the budget, and then I'm just another body. Yeah. You know, so the idea is I have to trust and I have to believe that the filmmaker can make the film.
How can countries retain a domestic production? So, for example, 50 years ago, Italy, France, Britain, the Netherlands had like a strong production, yeah? They would produce lots of movies. And a couple of decades later, some countries managed to retain the industry, and some countries sort of lost them. So, from your perspective, what should be done to help different countries to keep a national production?
Tax credits. You know, a lot of countries now have great. They entice people in by the way of, you know, tax credits and incentives to shoot in that country. So I suppose that's, you know, that's something. So that's an interesting question.
This is not about. This is your question is not only about the film industry. It's about all the industries in the world. We've got the same shops, same supermarkets, same producers of many products and even cultural products all around the world. The same music companies who produce same music, the same clothes brands. So I think we've got a problem with these brands. I see the problem with the brands. But I don't see what the countries can do about it. I think people can do something about it. Of course there could be regulations. They could help. But the state interference would do up to some point. I think it's down to people, it's down to us to kind of create and find our voice again. Not only for films, also for clothing and for food. And it's not about nationalism, it's not about nations. It's about caring for each other. Me buying his food, your beer, my film, but also it has to be good as well. So if you just give a percentage to the, let's say, the national production of films, if they're not good films, so I don't care. You know what I mean? So I think we have to create a consciousness among people about our products, about our clothes, about our food, about our films, and we have to sit down and think about the economy of arts from the very scratch again, I believe.
And earlier you described the situation in Turkey with like a massive amount of production every year, and I've heard, for example, many Turkish productions are exported to South America, to
yes, the Balkan countries and the Arab countries as well.
How can you tell us about this successful aspect of Turkish production?
It happened all of a sudden. Now they are exporting most of these TV shows now are exported even to Canada, from Canada to the Balkan countries, from the Arab Peninsula to the North African countries. Everybody, like all these countries, are watching Turkish TV shows, and Turkish celebrities are literally big names in these countries. It happened all of a sudden, but I would like to tell you something. None of the actors are getting any residuals for any of these shows that are shown abroad. We still have a massive problem about royalties and residuals. So that's another aspect of that's kind of the dark side of this success.
Right, do we have any more questions from anyone in the room? Well, I think that's it then. Yeah, so do we have
Cool.
round of applause for...
Thank you very much.